Speaking of technology, how about those billionaires on the fucking submarine?
Yes. Yeah, it's like something that we would have made up.
I don't know why this has been bringing me so much humor, but it has.
So it's a few billionaires, or
yeah, they're all extremely. I mean, they paid $250,000 a piece to be bolted into a fucking Xbox tube.
Yes.
PVC pipe, 3,000 meters underwater.
Yes.
And are they still alive?
At the time of recording, we don't know. But
okay.
I mean, obviously, it's super irritating that like a week after, one of the largest migrant ship disasters in the Mediterranean.
Yes.
We have like 6 different governments like rushing, like putting all these resources into finding these 5 morons who paid fucking tons of money so that they could see the fucking Titanic.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, at least one of them did go to space with Musk, but at least that's like you go to space. I know the deep sea is cool, but like to see the fucking Titanic
is fucking cool.
The deep sea is very cool.
Yeah, space is mostly just death.
But the Titanic, I don't know, it's ridiculous. And yeah, they're blowing all these resources to find these guys who signed up to do this in a like uncertified fucking sub that's controlled by an Xbox controller.
Well, what's his fucking name? His name is like Vert or something. This British billionaire. I think his last text was something like, "Don't tell me about the risks" or something like this, or "We don't talk about risks here." Well,
like the media is also like they're calling them all like explorers.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, because they're rich.
Not tourists. Right. I mean, explorers were often like douchebags like that, but I mean,
it's true.
They're acting like these people are like Darwin on the Beagle or something like this. They're doing, they're exploring. They look at the fucking Titanic like a bunch of other people before them.
Some might say there is a Darwinian angle to the story, though.
Absolutely agree.
I mean, this would be a great, like, if this becomes a trend and billionaires start dying in this kind of
deep sea space, wherever.
This would be awesome. I
Not bad.
Support. Yeah.
So they're just down there. I'm imagining it's like, because it's very dark down there. Presumably something fucked up, and so they're just sitting there, and it's getting into some sort of like Event Horizon situation where like, down here you don't need eyes to see.
Yes.
They're having like hallucinations of like, the captain of the Titanic like floating around them and cursing them.
The X-Files is being remade now under new direction, and maybe this will be
wait, really?
This is a pretty X-Files-y episode, I'd say. Yeah.
Again, they're making the X-Files?
I mean, they tried those other seasons.
I think it's a total reboot. I think it's a complete reboot.
Oh.
But, okay. But not with David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson?
Yeah, they don't... I mean, if they're in it, they're not the leads. They have new leads. It's still Chris Carter, I think. But
it is Chris Carter.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't like the later seasons that they did. It was garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the monster episodes were okay, but like they never should have continued with that fucking stupid plot line, and especially in like the reboot later seasons that were like 10 years after the show ended, and then like Mulder and Scully have a baby and this aliens, and I don't know, it's fucking stupid.
Well, speaking of...
That's coming from me. I'm a big X-Files fan.
Speaking of shows that are making episodes well after their time, welcome back to The Empire Never Ended.
Yes.
Hey. Boris, Fritz, and Ray.
Yeah.
We're in the Interarch. We're loose, This is Interarch Tenepod. We don't give a fuck. We'll talk about fucking X-Files all day.
Yeah, and
what are you going to do about it?
People locked in that stupid submarine.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
They're bolted in. That's the best part. Like when they launch it, they get the divers to fucking bolt them in. So even if they had resurfaced somehow, they'd still be reliant on the oxygen because they can't get out.
Wow.
So they could be feasibly on the surface, just like floating around, and still are, have like whatever, less than a day of oxygen left.
Yeah. It's being slowly replaced by billionaire
There's
parts.
a toilet in there too. Like, they're basically suffocating in a porta potty in Event Horizon.
Amazing. But it does give hope for
open the hatch, mama.
Well, I've been writing off Musk's stupid ass ultra deadly Mars plan for many, many years now. But this actually has given me a little hope that it might actually happen. If this many billionaires are this willing to fucking die over something fucking stupid, it might happen.
I'm exploring.
Yes.
When you pay for this service, they give you the option of assisting in navigation and stuff. So they're basically just paying to be told that they're like special little boys who can,
but they fucking
hand me the Xbox controller. I want to steer the boat.
I hope they steered it right into the Titanic. Like they crashed into it and they're going to find them in the hull.
On previous expeditions, this has been a problem because there's like powerful currents deep under the sea that they don't know that much about. And so one of these like previous Titanic expeditions was down there, and some fucking current pushed them like into the propeller of the fucking Titanic. They were stuck there for hours.
Wow.
Oh yeah, let's go to this place where 1,500 people died, and just presumably we won't die. We'll have a great time.
Well, we're rich.
13,000 feet underwater.
Unlike those Titanic people. It's funny because it's almost like they are, it's almost like a Titanic death cult. Maybe more billionaires will go and die there,
Well, fortunately, a lot of the rich people on the Titanic did survive, right? That was the survival rates of like first class women and children were like, I don't know, like 58% or something. And then, everybody else, all the steerage passengers.
And look how we improved. It's 2023 and billionaires are now going down there to die.
Yeah. They're trying to even it out.
Yes. to be like, ooh, look at all the steerage. Maybe I'll see some bones of some steerage passengers who didn't make it out because this ship wasn't safe, unlike the fucking submarine that we got on. that other deep sea exploration companies were like, this is a death trap, don't build it, blah blah blah. They just threw money at it, and
perfect.
There's an irony there somewhere. But this is this is the depths of our degradation through technological society.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
That's right.
He does. Teddy K does have a weird voice, huh?
Yes, he talks like this.
Well, no, he does. That's a little too. It's got that kind of Midwestern thing to it. Yeah. But he's
from Chicago, right?
Yeah. I don't know. It is pretty dorky, though. I mean, it's a surprising voice for a guy who looks like that, I gotta say.
Well, I mean, yeah.
It's just human behavior,
It wouldn't be surprising for old Teddy K, right? When he was like the genius mathematician who became a professor at age 25. But then, decades in the woods in prison made him look a lot more grizzled than his voice suggests.
Yes.
Well, so we're talking about Teddy K today.
Kind of. I mean, we kind of had to address it, right? He just committed suicide in prison on, was that, June 10th, I think? At first they didn't say that he had committed suicide, then it became clear that he had.
Because he was terminally ill, right?
He was terminally ill, but it wasn't his first suicide attempt. I think he tried to kill himself when he first got arrested.
Yeah.
And his dad killed himself, too. After, I think, being diagnosed with a terminal illness. So, he went the family way, I suppose.
No.
Didn't he? I think the first time he tried to kill himself was to prove he wasn't crazy, if I'm not mistaken. The courts.
Yeah. Right.
It's a roundabout way.
He didn't want to go for the insanity plea, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, so he died, and we might as well talk about him. I mean, we're not going to do a bio on
No.
Ted Kaczynski. Everybody knows that shit already. That's, there's a million documentaries, podcasts, TV shows, books, whatever you can read about him.
Are we going to talk about why so many Nazis are into him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, interestingly, right before he died, I was reading telegrams of some of our favorite avant-garde Ukrainian fascist groups.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going on some anti-technology tirades regarding the destruction of the Kakhovka Dam in Ukraine, right? That happened a few weeks ago, where, I guess the Russian occupiers blew it up. It's still not 100% clear what happened with that. Most likely the Russians blew it up. But, they blew up one of the biggest dams in Ukraine, causing a big ecological disaster and, of course, flooding of many towns and villages and cities even. And, of course, Crimea's water supply largely came from there. It's a big, big disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And so about a week, this happened about a week or so before Teddy K kills himself. And I'm reading this statement that this group wrote about it. And it's the modern world is vulnerable to man-made disasters that it itself creates. The occupiers blew up the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant, causing a cold sweat not only among domestic analysts, but also international community. However, what can be expected from an industrial society? Once again, there are sounds that report the collapse of these false values. The time bomb of today's tragedy was laid back in the USSR when we made great sacrifices in order to contribute to the common technological Babylon by flooding the Great Meadow to build the Kharkov Reservoir. The Veliki Lug was not only a serious part of the biosphere here, but also our historical monument, a sacred place of our Cossack epic. And then it goes on and on about, for example, Dominic Venner once expressed the opinion that industrial society is a shackle for a warrior, a free-spirited person. However, as we can see, this is not only a sacrifice, and even native nature, historical memory is not only a sacrifice on the altar of bright technological future, blah, 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 blah. And then they go on to say about...
Sounds familiar.
Bolsheviks, blah, 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 blah. And so, I'm reading this and I'm like, yeah, I knew these guys were super into kind of Nazi deep ecology stuff and that they were into, Teddy K among other people. And that this is kind of reflects a general trends in a lot of modern Nazi movements and individuals. Breivik quoted a lot from technological society and its industrial society and its future.
He did. I didn't know this.
Yeah,
He quoted a lot of stuff. He was into many things. No.
Yes,
he wrote like a huge stupid manifesto, right? It was like
I guess he plagiarized from Teddy K there too. I think he did.
He quoted like a Serbian right wing, like Serbian American right winger, like that guy Srđan Trifković. He was right. He was in Breivik's manifesto, and Breivik was into like weird stuff. He was into like, I don't know, the Templars or some knights. He was into knights. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like these Ukrainians who are like, into, the mythical Cossack warrior, free-spirited Cossack warrior. The Buffalo shooter was like an eco-fascist and cited Teddy K. I think the Christchurch shooter as well.
Maybe El Paso. I know he had some eco-fascist thing. I'm not sure if he cited Teddy or not, but
yeah,
he was in
Adam Waffen also cited Teddy. I think Teddy comes up in Siege too, right? I mean, everybody's in Siege.
Yeah, everybody is in Siege. That's true. I think Mao is in Siege.
Mao is in Siege.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say, Siege was on my mind a lot rereading this manifesto here. It's very siegey.
Lots of the system collapse.
Yeah. And then, of course, so we know that all these guys are into this, and we'll talk about why in a little bit. But, as soon as he did die, of course, they all put out tributes to him, all these various different Nazi groups. And, of course, these Ukrainians wrote a nice thing about him and, that he was a man of action ideologue for the fight against industrial society, which his death takes on a special symbolism for us in the background of the man-made disaster in Kherson. I think American Futurist also put out some tributes. Everybody put out tributes to Teddy K, basically.
I wonder if the incels did, because he was also...
he is an incel hero.
It came out that he's an incel hero, too, yeah.
Yeah.
But he had didn't he like have a wife in prison? Like, while he was in prison, I think he had some partner outside.
Yeah, but I don't think they...
touched.
Yeah. I don't think ADX Florence or wherever the fuck he was really allowed conjugal visits. I mean, honestly, ADX Florence does sound like absolute hell.
He says he likes it. He says he likes it in there.
Yeah, well, he didn't say he liked it. He said that he was better prepared for it than most.
Yeah, he did.
But that he was afraid that like he would get used to it and then lose the memory of the forest. And
so he hates it. Really, is what he's saying.
But I mean, they had 23 hours a day in one. You're 23 hours a day in a cell, and then you get an hour each day for exercise outside, which is quasi-social. You're in your own caged-in outdoor area, but other inmates are also there. So that's where he was like talking to Tim McVeigh and what's his name, the 1993 World Trade Center bomber,
Razmi Youssef.
Ramzi Youssef. Yeah. And they had deep intellectual conversations together in those 1 hour periods. And he said that Timothy McVeigh was a nice guy. Also distrusted the state.
Since he was arrested, he became much more like Teddy went much more into an like authoritarian direction, because the manifesto is like he thought of himself as an anarchist back then. But then when he was in prison, he went much more openly into an authoritarian direction. He actually published some book or two. I don't know. I didn't really read any of that stuff. But I know that John Zerzan, his former friend, was critical of the books that he wrote afterwards, which I think Zerzan said that they were basically like a kind of primitivist, like Bolshevism or something like this, in terms of like how Teddy saw the revolution and the revolutionary organization. It was very kind of almost Leninist in the way he envisioned a revolutionary organization should be organized and so on. But he never explicitly went into a right-wing direction, right?
Yeah, but he never explicitly went necessarily into an anarchist direction either. He read like anarchist or like green anarchist texts and criticized them, but from the perspective that, his vision of like a, return to, a hunter-gatherer society necessitates the destruction of the state, but pretty much every other aspect of any other strain of anarchist thought is gone there. I mean, he doesn't believe in any kind of...
No. I mean, this is why he had like this falling off with Zerzan, although, Zerzan was, I think, always critical of him, even like when, at the time he was arrested, but their big falling off was that Zerzan had anarchist values and Teddy didn't. So he called Zerzan a leftist because of this, because, Zerzan was into like, a non-civilized, post-civilized society, but he had like, for example, I don't know, anti-patriarchal, anti-homophobic values. And Teddy was like, well, that's just your leftist brain, because like the actual primitive society was very brutal and was sexist and homophobic and so on. So he was more kind of pure ideologically primitivist, like he actually, but he did call himself at the time an anarchist, and I think so. Okay, many people do call
many people
an anarchist.
do, yeah.
Yes, and his major influence was an anarchist, like also a strange anarchist, but was this guy Jacques Ellul, who was like a French Christian anarchist who was like kind of had some connections with the Situationists, and like they were kind of impressed by him, but also didn't want to socialize too much with him when they figure out he was a Christian and so on. But this is like basically like if you're interested in the type of critique that Teddy K wrote, you should probably read Jacques Ellul. I think it's more intelligent and better written. But it's basically, he basically rewrote Ellul's book, really, in many places.
Right. And Ellul's book is also called something like the Technological Society or something along those lines, right?
Yes.
Does Ellul spend the first third of the book complaining about essentially cancel culture?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with Zerzan. Like,
well, there's also this line though. This is what really bothered me about Zerzan in this. I finally watched this Netflix documentary. It's been on, whatever, forever. I've been meaning to watch this fucking thing, but it's the series about Teddy K, whatever. But Zerzan's in it a few times, and at one point he says something very close to when I read the manifesto, I couldn't think of anything I disagreed with in it. And I think as we start to explore this manifesto a little, if we do, that's
we should. I reread it.
Dude, when he gives, when Kaczynski gives his list of rebels against the system, these are the only ones he says here. Welfare leeches, youth gangs, cultists, Satanists, Nazis, radical environmentalists, and militiamen, which is an interesting list, This is
a list of what?
Rebels against the system, quote.
Okay.
Yeah, that's in the, what, come on. When a dude's using Nazis as an example.
Yeah, later, he does also call Nazis and fascists kook ideologies.
But
right,
that's,
later in there. But
but he spends a third of it talking about socialists, leftists, feminists. You know what I mean? This
right.
is his alignment is clear, I think.
I think what's interesting is that, when the manifesto was published by the Washington Post and when he was finally arrested, there was a lot of attention given to green anarchists in the US. This is also the time around when the WTO protest movements and stuff started happening, anti-globalization, and so there was a lot of attention given as a result of Teddy K to, Earth First and the ELF and that kind of stuff. But if you read the manifesto, it's very far away from, he criticizes Earth First constantly, right? That they're all leftists and moralists because they care about things.
Mm-hmm.
I think even in his,
but they work together even.
in his text, Forward to Technological Slavery, he says the political left is technological society's first line of defense against the revolution. And then, what do I mean by left? If you think that racism, sexism, gay rights, animal rights, indigenous people's rights, and social justice, in scare quotes, in general, are among the most important issues that the world currently faces, you are a leftist, as I use that term. So basically, if you're not doing true return, written in, with V's, then you're caught up in some bullshit racism, sexism, gay,
yada yada. Yeah,
you're not advocating for the destruction of technological society. You're a leftist.
Yeah, if you're not posting offensive limericks about a girl who wouldn't date you in the office that she works in, you're a leftist. Yeah. You might be a leftist.
Yeah. This is why it's not super clear to me that when people read, Industrial Society and its future, they didn't immediately see that. It's pretty clear from, the very beginning. But Nazis, I think, weren't super into him until much later, right? I think the kind of more recent trends of, the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski being popular among Nazis is definitely a post-90s thing. It wasn't, I think, as big in those circles. And I think that's largely because, I think those kind of traditional Nazi movements in the US were still very kind of, let's say, authoritarian. And the kind of move towards a less authoritarian, esoteric fascism became popular more in the kind of internet era, or at least more widespread, I'd say.
Back in episodes 107 and 109, we had a very nice two-part interview with 12 Rules for What about the rise of ecofascism and the discussions around it. If anybody wants to go back and check out some of that more in-depth analysis of that trajectory.
Those are some of the only episodes that I wasn't on.
That's true.
I think I've missed
true.
Like 3 episodes, and
yeah,
those interviews were.
Well, that was a good one too. It was a good one.
Yeah. So but I think that a lot of Nazis later found themselves in his critiques of leftism. I think that's the psychology of modern leftism, which is a whole, the second chapter. It's actually the first thing that comes after the introduction.
Right. I think they liked the blowing people up too, the collateral
some of them
damage
did,
and all that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's a big thing in siege culture too, right? And all the stuff we talked about in Arc 1, just the valorization of violence for violence sake and that kind of thing. Obviously they liked that, but they liked this very predecessor to modern discourse about cancel culture on the right.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, when you read it, and I hadn't read Industrial Society and Its Future in a while, and so when I got to that, I was just like, oh yeah, look at this. He spends like half the text just talking about how leftists care about things because they feel inferior.
Yeah.
And yada, yada, yada.
Which brings us to our famous game show, which we haven't played since I think episode 2.
Oh,
this is the second game of Who Said It.
Oh
with
shit!
Boris
all right.
and Ray.
Well, so in episode 2, we did it with David Maya and Jordan Peterson, right?
Yes. You guys failed that. Just brutally failed that challenge last time. So let's see if Boris and Ray can.
Well, you were doing the voice then, so it was confusing.
Well, I'm gonna do it. That's the point. That's
Okay.
I'm gonna do it and the thing is Ben Shapiro, who we're gonna compare this to, and Ted Kaczynski have very similar voices in my mind. So it should be a bit of a challenge.
What is technological society?
Yes. All right. Are you ready?
Why do women not like to be called chicks anymore?
Hey,
no, that's actually
close the thing. Close your manifesto.
Cut that.
Close the manifesto. You're getting way too close to some of the ones I picked out here. But you see my point. All right.
The N-word used to be a really common thing to say. Now it's not. Why is that?
Here we go. Number 1.
The leftist philosophy of violence is simple. It's good when it's being used for leftist causes. It's bad when it's being used for any other purpose.
Is that Ben Shapiro or Ted Kaczynski?
I mean, it sounds like Ben Shapiro, but I guess it's Ted.
Ray votes Ted. Boris?
I'm actually going to go with Shapiro.
That is a point for Boris, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. I'm keeping tabs here on the score. Very good. That is, in fact, a quote from Ben Shapiro. Quote number 2.
Leftists tend to hate anything that has an image of being strong, good, and successful. They hate America. They hate Western civilization. They hate white males. They hate rationality.
Is that Ben Shapiro or Ted Kaczynski?
That's Shapiro.
No, I actually know for a fact that that's Kaczynski because it's Industrial Society and Its Future.
Right.
And I did just reread it, so
that's fresh in my mind. That's a shame.
I'm so bad at this game.
You didn't do your homework, that's why. You didn't do your homework.
You didn't. I told you to read Industrial Society and Its Future.
This is why. This is why.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
I'm curious to know how the listeners are doing too. Keep track of y'all's own scores. I want to see them in the comments if you did it. All right, let's do number 3.
Feminists are desperately anxious to prove that women are as strong and as capable as men. Clearly, they are nagged by a fear that women may not be as strong and as capable as men.
Ted.
TK? Boris, what do you think?
I think TK, yeah.
Yeah, it's the point for each of you that is Teddy K and not BS. Here we go. We have 2 more.
For leftists, the answer to domestic violence isn't to deal with any of the issues that could lead boys to become abusing men. The answer instead is to lecture Americans about the use of the word sissy. Not because that solves the problem, but because it makes those on the left feel warm and fuzzy inside.
That's Ted again, right?
Ted.
Nice, guys. Much better. Oh, shit. Did you guys say Ted?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. Sorry. That's Ben Shapiro.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes, that's
wow,
Ben
okay.
Shapiro. That is Ben Shapiro. Yeah, I misread that.
Okay.
I'm taking your points away. That is a Ben Shapiro quote.
Damn, I really thought
that
it was Ted because sissy is like a dated word. And it is something that like...
Let me check. Let me just make sure. Let me check that one. I'll let the judges sit for a second. Let me think. Nope, that is Ben Shapiro. Yeah, confirmed.
Damn.
All right.
Damn.
I mean, Ben Shapiro is like a dated guy. No, what he's saying is always sounds like he's a million.
Yeah, he's like
old.
70 years old in his brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last one. Is this Ted Kaczynski or Ben Shapiro?
Words like self-confidence, self-reliance, initiative, enterprising, optimism, etc. play little role in the liberal and leftist vocabulary.
Oh,
I'm tempted to say that that's Ben because it does sound like Ben Shapiro, but...
Well, we only had one Shapiro so far, right?
No, we've had two.
We had two.
I think we have two.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm going to go with Ben.
All right, we got a vote for Ben. Ray?
Okay, I'll agree with that.
Man, you guys all sucked at this so bad. That was Ted Kaczynski. That was Ted Kaczynski. I'll say Boris does walk away with the victory in this one, though, with 3 points over Ray's measly 1.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Boris. And
It
Ray,
is. You're absolutely right. If you read the first 2 chapters of Industrial Society and Its Future in Ben Shapiro voice, it's all the terms Negro, Oriental, handicapped, or chick for African, an Asian, a disabled person, or a woman originally had no derogatory connotation.
Yes.
Broad and chick were merely the feminine equivalents of guy, dude, or fellow. The negative connotations have been attached to these terms by the activists themselves.
Yes.
Some animal rights activists have gone so far as to reject the word pet. I mean,
is this where the anthropologists come up there? Is it like next? Like left anthropologists are trying to get us to stop using the word primitive.
Yeah. He says leftish anthropologists go to great lengths to avoid saying anything about primitive people that could be conceivably interpreted as negative. They want to replace the word primitive by non-literate.
Oh my God. He's just such a brilliant mind, you know? He's a brilliant mind and no one understood him.
Yeah.
I mean, he basically just said, why can't we say the N-word in Oriental anymore?
Yes. It puts a new spin on the word boomer. Am I right? Huh? Because of the bombs.
He was probably saying it a lot when he was living alone in a cabin in the middle of nowhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But he was like going out and like interacting with his snow rabbit.
And he was explaining how it's not offensive, actually.
Yes.
Yes, to
He's
himself.
lecturing like a tree.
Yes.
I think you understand. You're as old as time. Now, the N-word is a perfectly...
You remember a time when you could say broad all you wanted.
Yeah. Check out the stems on that broad.
You know what I'm saying.
And I don't mean broads and stem.
Oh my God.
Yeah, what an
asshole.
A fucking shithead. I mean, this is the thing. This when you read this, you have to question Zerzin's like enthusiasm to just be like, wow, somebody's really talking my language. But then again, Zerzin is also a fucking boomer. Like,
yes, he obviously is.
Like, he's also just like some boomer white guy, like who's just like, yeah, technology's bad. And then, I mean, he had a whole process of getting there. And we know some people that knew Zerzin back in the day, huh?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yes. I mean,
he was in like the same circles as people like Bookchin too, right? I'd imagine that like you'd all lose your minds if they were, running around New York.
Some people who were in Bookchin's circle in the 60s were later in Zerzin's circle in the 70s. Some that I knew. But yeah, I think there was no connection between Zerzin and Bookchin. But yeah, they said that he's a bit crazy, but he was like a nice guy. These old anarchists said. I don't know. He's pretty reasonable, I would say now. And like, I don't know if he has a radio show that you can listen to on the internet. He's like, Zerzin was like against those like eco-extremists, very much talking against them. And he was always against this indiscriminate killing of people. Like also at the time when he was like in contact with the Unabomber, he wrote a text that he said he's against that. And he was also like, he was now like he was like not against the vaccine and
really?
Okay, all right. It makes me feel a little calmer.
Was attacked by some people because of that. He's also like very anti-turf.
Which is not true in those circles a lot of times. Like Derek Jensen's, who's even before he got canceled, I never liked his work. I always thought it was fucking obnoxious.
No, yeah.
I read that whatever the fuck that main book of his like ages ago, and I was like, this sucks. Like I finished reading it, but I had the same feeling reading that book that I do when I read a lot of like dumb Nazi texts. Yeah, just like getting through it and be like, this is very, very bad, and I don't like it. Yes, but yeah, he was a huge turf. Yeah, because that's unnatural. Okay.
Well, yeah, we talked a little bit about that with the boys from 12 Rules.
Think anybody's trans in the animal kingdom?
Right. I don't think so. Right. Except for, quite a few. Like a shit ton, actually, of species are pretty happy switching.
Yeah, but he's a total dork. He was also like, he was just recruited, like, or cited by what's the name of the guy? He was for a time very popular American, like, lefty critic who attacked the Black Bloc during Occupy.
Fucking RT guy.
Not RT. Hedges, well?
Hedges, RT, yeah.
Chris Hedges, yeah.
Hedges is on to RT now?
He was for a long time.
He had a show there, but not now. I don't think so.
I thought he was supposed to be like a respectable journalist. I thought his whole thing was like,
when?
You want to talk about violence? I've been to Bosnia.
Well, yes, that's his thing. Exactly, yes. That's his thing. Like, I thought you meant respectable to us.
Yes. He's like critique of the Black Bloc who was like, what? They're like breaking store windows.
Well, and that they're cowards for not showing their faces.
He knows what real violence is because he was in Bosnia. Which is like, so you're using us, the Balkan people, to be against people who are like breaking windows in America because you were in Bosnia. Like, what? How is that? It doesn't make any. And he was probably like
sitting in the Holiday Inn in Sarajevo,
or probably
like,
in
Vienna for some major newspaper.
Probably in Vienna. Like he was probably
no. They all cut their teeth back in the day by like in that Holiday Inn, and you know. A million journalists made their names there. Christian Amanpour and
so when he wrote that horrible article, he cited like he talked to Jensen, who was then had his beef with Zerzan and those people. So he was like one of the people who kind of talk shit.
To talk to the black to talk shit on the Black Bloc, I'm going to talk to this guy who's not an anarchist because Jensen's is it.
I think. When we circle back around to our Balkan topics, we should maybe do a few shows live from that Holiday Inn if it's still around.
It's no longer a Holiday Inn.
Oh, well, it's something, right? Is it a room?
It's a hotel, but I think it's no longer the Holiday Inn.
Let's do it. I'll bring flak jackets.
Yeah. Well, actually, speaking of the vaccine, have you ever heard Teddy K's critique of the Zapatistas and Marcos?
I'm sure it's brilliant.
You told me yesterday and I already forgot. Tell me, please.
I mean, he wrote this, I think, in response to like some article in, some Green Anarchy, I think in Green Anarchy, where somebody was saying that the Zapatistas are resisting modernization. And again, his writing style is so obnoxious. If that's true, then they had better get rid of Subcomandante Marcos muy pronto. I just want to slap him as soon as I read that. And then, the good Subcomandante is no opponent of modernization. And then, he cites, a speech by Marcos where he's talking about like, how, discrimination against indigenous people in Mexico, where like, you don't have any of the resources afforded to you that the rest of Mexico has in society. And then he's like, it's clear what Subcomandante Marcos is driving at, and it isn't an end to modernity. He just wants poor people to have their fair share of the technological pie. And then
boo.
Boo,
poor people.
But he's like, but if you don't believe that there should be any electricity, plumbing, modern medicine, schools, or jobs, then it makes no sense to say that poor people ought to have the share of these things.
That's true.
Dude,
if you think that there should be...
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Society does not exist. I forgot which famous anarchist said that. Margaret
so stupid, yeah. So I was actually once in a discussion where it was like a discussion with some Zapatistas.
Yeah.
And and then lots of people, they were answering many questions about their community and how they do stuff there and so on. And one of the questions was about technology, and it was like because many many, lots of areas where that they control don't have electricity. It's not available everywhere. They have it, but it's not in every house and so on. And then someone was like suggesting like, why don't you like have more like why don't you utilize wind to make electricity and things like that? And then these like Zapatistas who like, they're like farmers, like small, like peasants kind of, but they have this experience of collective like discussions about all the topics, in their community, kind of said what their community thinks about this. And they said, like, we discussed this and we tried some of that, but we decided against it because it kills a lot of birds. And so we decided we don't need electricity that much. Like, if it kills birds, like, it's not what we want to do. And then they were like, we're not against technology or for it, but we would like to kind of maintain our values and way of living and organizing. And if it disrupts
but
that... But
they practice agriculture.
Yeah. Yes. And disrupts that, then we are not for it. So somehow. This is roughly what they said,
Yeah, yeah.
Which is
I was thinking of that exact...
Yeah.
That exact discussion when I was reading this, because I was just like, you're just so far out of your league, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, they want medicine.
Yeah. I mean, Zapatistas, of course you can be critical of their, like, whatever you want about the politics of that organization, but they're actually like community of people who, live a communal life actually together and discuss everything in their lives and decide together and so on. And Ted is like, a fucked up person. Like, he wasn't able to have one relationship in his life with anyone really. Like,
aside from his brother, and that even fell apart when his brother decided to, get married and,
to a regularly intelligent person, apparently.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, yeah, you got a woman in between us or whatever.
And she's like,
because he's a fucking incel
your brother's
asshole.
the Unabomber.
And his brother did snitch on him at the end and got him arrested. But so I don't know. Reading all these texts of his, it's pretty clear to me why a bunch of like loser internet Nazis and like weirdo esoteric Nazis like his texts. But I mean, and then he doesn't like them because he doesn't like anyone, because the problem is, like, when you read any of his correspondences with people, is that obviously he's like an intelligent guy. He was probably like an interesting guy to talk to. He was like a genius, and he did get an MK Ultra to like,
but I don't know.
Like, I mean, no, I'm sure you could have like, an interesting conversation with him about things, but he's so obnoxious because everything goes back to, no, you're not hardcore enough.
Yeah.
Which is like, you think everything's fun and games, but it's not all about being like, we don't want to be, hunter-gatherers because it's like in a more, egalitarian form of life and like, communism or whatever. No, it sucks and it's horrible, but that is like autonomy and freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't get that, you're a fucking idiot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so everything comes down to that. And, that's why it's impossible for him to have supporters, even though he's constantly talking about like, how they need to build the movement. The movement has to be like explicitly anti-leftist. Again, this is where you're getting like, he says, who are the real rebels? Well, there's the Satanists and the Nazis, which, brings me to something like ITS, right, in Mexico and in various places, right?
Yeah.
The individuals tending towards the wild, or is it tending to a wild?
Yeah. Yes. The people who self-described as eco-extremists. I mentioned them now because Zerzan was against them.
Right. There was a bunch of those ITS guys, of course, started republishing 09A texts.
Mm-hmm.
Because it makes so much sense.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
It's that exactly,
because it's
that
stupid?
type of fucking person.
Yeah.
Because it's
stupid,
what I mean? Is how you said.
Yeah.
No, because for people that aren't familiar with ITS, it's self-described eco-extremists who like arbitrarily bomb things.
If you call yourself an extremist, this means that means that you are like a middle-class bourgeois person.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm an extremist.
Yes.
I ride a motorcycle. I'm extreme.
Yeah.
I go in a submarine for 13,000 feet underwater because it's extreme, baby.
Yes.
Spelling explorer without the E.
Yeah. Big X.
Triple explore.
I'll kill you because I don't like you. And I'm above morality.
Yeah, yes, there you go. Yes. There it is. Yep. Yep. There's your fucking whatever, your Vindex, your satanic predator, your Ubermensch, your yada, 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 yada.
Leopold and Loeb, basically, right?
Wait, I saw that movie. Isn't that about the woman that goes back in time and it's like a romantic comedy?
Leopold and Loeb, the rich kids in Chicago.
Kate and Leopold. That's what I'm thinking of. Leopold and Loeb. Yes, Rope. This guy.
Rope. Yeah, excellent film with Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, Kate and Leopold, exactly as good a film.
Yes.
3 kids, 1 who graduated and 2 who are going to Villanova.
How do you account for that?
Then you got Leopold and Loeb. They cornhole and murder this kid for fun, and their father was a successful businessman, a fucking millionaire.
But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. That is what these guys are. But ITS, like they're all about like being the most extreme, and of course, like bombing, like also attacking leftist and anarchist stuff in Mexico and in like other places in Latin America. Right? There's in Chile and Argentina, I think.
Yeah,
ITS chapters. But yeah, like it's no surprise that they go from that on over to 09A. It's
yeah.
It makes perfect sense. And wasn't the fucking. Was it ITS or Atasa or whatever? The guy that got doxxed, he was a trad-cath, like living in like suburban Texas, like a wife and kid.
God, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I forgot.
I was just thinking about the tradies.
This was a few years ago.
Yes, he was publishing this kind of North American pro-eco-extremist magazine.
Yeah.
And then... but he was doxxed by some insurrectionary anarchists, I think, who were against these eco-extremists, and they found out who he is. He was like a Catholic, yes. I don't know if he was like a trad Catholic, but he was for some reason into Catholic theology, which I don't know how does this go together with primitivism?
Well, the anti-modernity struggle, right? We talked about Bishop Williamson, and he loved Teddy K. He loved him. And he was talking about how Teddy K is this figure that he wants to say, like, yeah, this is the guy we want to be, except more Catholic, like with the church, you know?
Right.
Like, we shouldn't be afraid to engage in this kind of struggle against modernity like Teddy K did.
But that's the interesting thing,
he
right?
said on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah. Well, of course, yeah.
Sorry, not to be that guy.
Yeah, if you don't like technology, just fucking tap some sticks or something, fucking idiot. Like, no, but that's the thing with all of these like Nazis and weirdo right wing readings of Teddy K is that they accept his critique of industrial society, but they don't actually understand really what he's talking about. And I'm not trying to like be a douchebag about that. That he's very clear what he's saying: a return to a society pre-agriculture. And you have these like these trad Catholics or like these Ukrainians or like, you know, all these other like East European Nazis who are like, yeah, you know, this actually means that we'll live like they do in monasteries.
Yeah, or they
no, they're practicing
feudalism.
Agriculture. That's
exactly
bad.
Yes. Yes.
You know, like you're not going to have your like Kozak society. Like that's not. No, he means hunter gatherer.
He means pre-Çatalhöyük. You know, he means like pre-Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah, I mean, the anthropologists here. I mean,
but with with all the things that we've learned about why feminism sucks and why socialism sucks and all that, the knowledge we keep, you know, it's like an anti-woke Çatalhöyük.
You might have to explain that there.
Oh well, wokeness is a complex question, Boris. It could mean many things. Çatalhöyük. It's a prehistoric city where you had the first urbanization, famously before you had the first widespread agriculture, and the discovery of the city sort of flipped the narrative on that timeline, where in fact communality preceded organized agriculture, and instead of agriculture allowing for and thereby or somehow necessitating cities. That's it. So if you imagine that, but everybody's burning books about trans kids. Then you've got your Teddy K utopia, I think.
Yeah, although I think he would even contest that, right?
Fires too much?
Fire is too much. Yeah, no.
But do you remember that Teddy K? Like, I think I remember this correctly. That at some point in his life, he was considering he was trans.
Yeah, I think
yes.
Yeah.
There was some long-winded explanation of this on Netflix, the documentary, and whoever the fuck they asked said something like, they believe it was more tied to sort of his like incel attitude than anything else. And he had this sort of morbid fascination with women that this person thinks played out that way, that he didn't express any gender, just like, what is it?
I mean,
what do you call it?
Who knows?
But who knows? Again, but he went to the waiting room and then left from the waiting room. I don't think he ever
But then
got
said
his
that he was like
consultation.
motivated, like he felt like a very powerful, like murderous rage after.
Yeah. And that's when he decided to start killing psychiatrists and shit like that.
Yeah.
So who knows with that fella? He
I
had a lot
think
going
killing
on.
psychiatrists also had to do something with the experiments they did on him, right?
That's
Although
also
yes and no, because he said it didn't actually affect him that much.
Yeah, but he says that because
him saying that. Yeah,
he's a macho douchebag who doesn't want to seem like a victim because that would make him a leftist. You see, he doesn't want to be traumatized, like to say that he is or that he's a fucked up person or anything like that. You know,
I don't think he was fucked up from those experiments, though. I think he was fucked up way before that. Because experiments, they weren't that. I mean, they were, but they weren't like, you're not talking about deep psychological driving or anything like that here.
I couldn't say that. I don't know.
Everybody else in that experiment didn't turn into Teddy K, you know.
But that didn't help for sure.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
No, and you're right. He doesn't want to come off as a victim because that's his whole thing.
Yeah,
right?
Yes. He would never say
nor insane, right? Like that he doesn't have full control over his faculties. That's important to him. Yeah.
Like, leftist, anti-racist don't actually want to end racism. They just feel like motivated by their guilt. And honestly, what is his like strain of primitivism but that? You know what I mean? Isn't it motivated by the guilt of participating in an industrial society?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, isn't that like the drive behind such like an intense like reaction, right? To like, no, we're going back all the way, you know?
Or is that like a rationalization of his inability to be a social person at all? Like he has some intelligence, and the industrial society is obviously very fucked up, and there are many things in the books that he read about the critiques that he read that are true, and he probably also rationally agreed with those arguments, but he's also a totally fucked up person who is not able to function with other people. So maybe it was like a comfortable position to him to adopt, and
It's interesting too that he pretended he was collectivized, right? He wrote this manifesto as we, as a collective, as an anarchist collective, if I'm not mistaken, right? Wasn't that?
Yes, Freedom Club.
Freedom Club, right? FD.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think that I've never really been super interested in anti-civ stuff and like primitivist texts. I think that there is some value in some analysis by certain authors, and there's interesting things there. But he doesn't. He's too much of like a macho reactionary to even engage those texts in that kind of way, right?
For sure, yeah.
I never really got into Zerzan or anything. I think
when you read Zerzan,
Against History, Against Leviathan is probably the only
but also like
primitivist text that
both Freddie Perlman and like Zerzan were like more like kind of left communists before they became like anarchists. They were very kind of Marxist anarchists, and they in some way continued to be that even when they were like criticizing civilization. Like when you read Zerzan's text, he mostly quotes almost in every text that he writes. He references like Frankfurt School thinkers. This is like his influence,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I had something on the tip of my tongue while you were saying that. Now I can't.
Was it Teddy K's pedagogical attitude towards spanking? Spanken?
Spanken?
Yeah. No.
He's very. Well, that's all right. I made notes about that.
He's pro.
Oh yeah. He's pro der Spanken. He's against child abuse. But he says people define child abuse like a bunch of sissies. And
Wait, he says that? Like, actually?
Well, the quote I don't have here now, but he singles out spanking as like, we look at spanking now as child abuse. What a stupid idea. We need to bring back spanking. La da 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 da. Spank, spank, spank.
Wow. So this,
boom, boom.
No, it really is. I mean, this is also like a Fox News talking point.
That's what I was going to say. It sounds like a guy in the woods with a radio.
Like Bill O'Reilly. Like,
yeah.
You know, you can't spank your kids anymore. Like Rush. Like, yeah. But I mean, he had those moments. Like, you know, he said that that he wanted to vote for Bush because he was against stem cell research, kind of thing. But then he didn't like Bush, you know, whatever. But I mean, it's
such a
fucking insufferable,
brilliant mind.
I mean, I can see where, like, I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like, there are good critiques of technological society and the like, and even guys like, you know, even guys like Abdullah Öcalan, right, who, you know, the ideologue behind the PKK and like the whole Kurdish movement. Like that whole their analysis of sexism goes back to like the beginnings of agriculture in Mesopotamia, and like, you know, so there's a lot of people who, you know, take it back that far and who you know, analyze like the effects of technology and you know, stratification of society because of civilization. Like there are like valid critiques and interesting things to be read there, and he just flips the script and doesn't, you know, and takes it into a direction that is more in tune with what like a lot of these eco-fascists believe today, right? And so, like, you know, I think this increase in his popularity in all these kind of newer like fascist groups and eco-fascist groups over the last couple of decades comes from this legitimate anxiety that people have about technology. And you can see this in like the whole like world of Teddy K memes on the internet, which a lot of them are they are very funny. You know what I mean? Because it's like, because we do live in this like technological nightmare. The internet is hellish and, you know, social media is insane. And so like, you know, that's a meme format where it's like pointing out something about like the insanity of modern technological society and life, and then like, you know, a picture of Teddy K next to it. You know what I mean? Like, I get it, but there are so many better critiques of technology and industrial society than Ted Kaczynski. Because it's shit sucks. It's insufferable. It's hard to read.
I would say that most are better. Like most people who wrote,
even other bad ones are better than this. But you know, like deep ecology has always been part of like National Socialism, for example, right? I mean, that was part of the whole thing, right? Where we depopulate large portions of the world to, you know, so that, you know, Aryan people can live a life in harmony with nature because like lesser races overbreed and all this other kind of stuff. And that was that was a big thing in National Socialism. So it's not like a new thing at all.
If any listeners again want to go back to episodes 107 and 109 with the 12 rules for what boys here we had over, lots of discussion about that connection and those rises and the different kinds and varieties of ecofascism and whatnot. Good discussion. One of the things that I really thought was funny in Teddy K's manifesto here was he seemed to have this feeling that no one in like advanced societies can hang out. He made a point out of like everybody being constantly on edge, needing something to do. And okay, I see the point. In that, especially if you're American. But if you go someplace that has like, you know, socially sanctioned siestas, for instance, or just a beach, you know, like the situation changes very rapidly. It's a very tight view of civilization. It's mostly just talking about American consumer society. And
the society that he came up in, which is like, you know, I was labeled at a genius at a young age, like got a PhD before I was, you know, he got a PhD when he was like 23 or something, and was immediately sent into the world of like,
all that means is that your PhD sucked, dude. That's all that means.
Well, they say it was one of the best. His advisor said it was fantastic. I mean, it was mathematics and stuff. But I mean, like, you can see how, you know, going into that, this is like 1967, you know, American universities, like Ivy Leagues and stuff. You can see how that would probably those people didn't relax. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or if they did, they'd relax in like sadistic frat boy ways, of, like, hazing each other, and
it's
like
just the shittiest place.
In secret societies and
yes, yeah. Everyone who came out of there came out fucked up in some way. I mean, you can't not.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't help, as Ray pointed out, that they were doing all these fucking, like, we talked about what the state of psychology was in like the 60s and 70s on the show a couple times now. You know,
they're doing. I don't know how true to like, but the dramatic show about Ted that was made a few years ago, they portrayed that, you know, that it was a special. I don't know how true this is, but that the doctor who did these experiments on him, who I think was MK Ultra connected, was also like the person that, you know, Ted looked up to and was basically his only friend, maybe, you know, or he thought that this was his friend, and that this is also the person who abused him in such a way. So you know, it was like, but yeah. So I don't know if that's true. I remember
the experiment was kind of like some sort of like Maoist struggle session type thing, right?
Yes,
like,
it was.
Yeah, it was like critique, self-critique, like the, you know.
Yeah.
This is something that you hold, like, this is something that's dear to you, like, you know, self-crit now or something, you know. Yeah.
That's what it was.
And then that does have, you know, it can have.
It'll fuck you up.
Devastating.
But if you think you're fucking the psychology professor is your best friend, something's already wrong there.
No, he was fucked up. That's, you know, of course. But then, you know, this, I think, was a major influence.
Yeah, it's not,
you know,
it's not gonna
when you're that young and fucked up and then you have a relationship and it turns out they're MK Ultraing you, you know, it seems like it's bad.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, this isn't. We haven't seen the end of this. Like, in terms of all these Nazis, I think they're going to continue to like this anti-industrial society shit in their own special Nazi way.
Yeah,
like, you know, these guys literally in Ukraine have their own fighting force, and they're like, yeah, I mean, the destruction of the dam is bad, but it's actually kind of good in the long run. We want that. So, you know, our sacred steppe lands of our ancient, you know, Kozak or Heimat or whatever won't be underwater, and we can, you know.
Our ancient Kozak hunter-gatherers.
Yes. Oh no, free warrior people. Who did they cite there?
David Myatt, I think.
No. Do you know Dominic Venner?
It sounds very familiar.
I don't think I do.
It's familiar to me too. When I read it, I was like, I know, but also like I couldn't. I read it originally like in Ukrainian, and so like I was having a hard time like figuring out the spelling, whether it's WENNER and in Latin, you know, whatever. But I guess,
he committed suicide inside the Cathedral of Notre Dame.
Oh, whoa!
Dominique Venner did. Yes, but really, to be understood, he must be read in his original Ukrainian.
No, but he's some like French Nazi or
I think this sounds familiar now. Yeah,
he was a member of the organization Armée Secrète.
Yes,
a far-right French dissident paramilitary and terrorist organization during the Algerian War.
Yeah, this is like Gladio stuff.
Yeah.
They're the people who tried to kill de Gaulle like 10 times.
Right.
Okay.
Right. No, they like him too. They mention him in talking about industrial society. Which is the shackle for a warrior, for the free.
It's implied here that he shot himself because he was mad about Muslim immigration and same-sex marriage. I hope that's true. I hope that's why he shot himself.
Yes, he was like, you know, degeneracy, whatever.
I mean, that's a lot better than, you know, the Buffalo shooter who shot other people.
Oh yeah, no, this is a much better method.
You know, that immigration and black people are somehow ruining the environment, and not like white middle class America. Like American society. That's not the problem. It's
you don't go to a mosque and shoot other people. You go to a church and shoot yourself.
Yeah,
this probably shouldn't be in the show, but yeah.
Well, look, we're just saying if you have to do one or the other, it's like you know, it's better not to do either. I would say, you know, best case scenario. But if you got to do one, do it the French way. But I think what I wanted to say is, and this fucking El Paso shooter. he goes into a Walmart. He goes into a Walmart to protest the effects of immigration on the environment.
Right. Right. I mean, at least, yeah. No.
I mean,
yeah. Yeah. Now this is back in TENE territory. There.
Yes. Hey, we are though.
Fucking Schmendrix.
Well, I think that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's smarter things we could say, but you know,
well, we can get smarter people
day.
Then. You know, if you want smarter things, we'll call one of our friends. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we don't want. We'll not make a 10 episode arc about Teddy K. Huh? This is it.
Yeah.
No,
I'm happy to leave this be.
Yes. Not unless Netflix gives us money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is our first step into the inter-arc period.
Hooray!
We're free balling into the unknown here.
Indeed. Alrighty. Well,
I don't like leftists playing on my phone.
The problem is if you have a phone, you're missing the problem.
Teddy K kept it real.
Yes. Keeping it real goes wrong.
Yes, that's the Teddy K story.
From being MK Ultra in an Ivy League school.
I said I don't like psychiatrists playing with my genetic code.
All right.
That's even a dated reference at this point.
It is.
All right, guys. Well, see you soon. I'm sure the listeners already figured out that this episode is late, so enjoy.
So very soon we'll record the next one, I guess. I hope.
I'm guessing for a couple of weeks our schedule is going to be a little bit wacky, but we're gonna churn them out. We're gonna churn them out.
That's because we're celebrating. We're celebrating the end of the arc, and I'm sitting here poolside drinking Singapore slings, and
that's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Later.
See you soon.
Bye.
Hey there, Fritz here from The Empire Never Ended. This has been one of our weekly free episodes for free people. But for premium people, we also have weekly premium episodes, which you can get at patreon.com/tenepod, TENEPOD, and also follow our various social media things in the show description there. Like and subscribe them. Follow them. Like and follow and subscribe. Follow them. Do it.